Hello, Samford fans. Welcome back to another edition of the Samford Sports Wrap-Up. I'm John McAfee, happy to be joined again by Samford men's basketball head coach Scott Paget. Coach, appreciate you being here again.
Thanks for having me again.
Well, before we get into last night's game, let's go back to last week and talk a little bit about your road trip at Wofford, at Furman. You split a pair of really hard-fought road games. You take a Wofford team that's unbeaten in SoCon play to overtime. Then you go to Furman and you battle back from behind and you end up winning that game in the final seconds. Talk a little bit about the positives that you can take away from that two-game road swing.
Well, I think first last week leading into it, we talked about guys getting caught up in the result and letting it affect the future, and so we really focused on, hey, every play, every game, it's, the record's 0-0, the score's 0-0 on every play. And go out and do your best to go win the next play, and then win the next play, and then win the next play. And if we do that, if we have that mindset in practice and in games, I think at the time we had 28 practices and it was like 12 games guaranteed, counting, conference tournament at the time or something. And we said if we'll do that the rest of the year, we're not this far off. Like if you look at our games, UNCG, down to the last, minute. You look at, the Wofford game, obviously down to the last second. ETSU's an overtime game. West Carolina was a one-possession game with a minute left to go. Mercer, it's a one-possession game. We get the flagrant two, but it's a one-possession game at that time. So we're not miles off. We're this far off. But in my mind, and like watching film, I feel like we have this much room for improvement, And if we'll just get this much better every day between now and the conference tournament, like that doesn't mean we'll win it, but nobody's going to want to play us, and we'll have that opportunity to win it. But we have to come in every day. So when we have a practice, one of the things we've really been talking about is there's three things that we can really control, and they will actually make us better. Is one, for us, it's all about consistency, and it's consistency from day to day. It's consistency from play to play. Is how do I control consistency? Well, if I have a great attitude every day, I give great energy every day, and I have great focus every day, that'll take care of consistency. Because if I can do it on a Monday or a Tuesday after a tough loss or after being off a day, and I can really focus in on a Monday or Tuesday and be locked into those three things, then we'll get better. And then when Thursday, Saturday come around to play the games, we'll be a better team than we were. And that's where, like, being a young team, that's where we got to learn that the focus and consistency has to be 40 minutes through a game, and has to be, and it has to be when you're in season, it has to be an everyday thing, not, okay, we got a game today, so I'm going to turn it on. I got energy and a great attitude and focus today, because that's not how it works. If you had a bad attitude and energy and stuff Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're probably going to have it on Thursday too. You create habits, and those habits also create who you are.
Sure. And
so we got to really just focus in on great attitude, great energy, great focus every day.
Let's touch briefly on last night's game against ETSU. I know obviously you never want to drop a game at home. There are some positives to take away. I mean, you hold the Bucks under 40% from the field. What were some of your takeaways from last night's game?
Well, I thought in the first half we had a game plan going into it. In the first half we stuck to it. We got the ball inside. We on the pick and roll. We just found whoever the open guy was. We forced it a couple times there, but for the most part we just found the open man. We shoot 48%. Had some turnovers that kept them in the game, but we didn't let them kill us on the boards. We were winning the boards at halftime, and they only had 4 offensive rebounds. And then in the second half, I don't know why, but our energy was not the same to start the half. They started dominating the backboard. They had 10 offensive rebounds in the second half, and we started deciding who gets shots, versus just throw it to the open man. We're trying to force it to certain people. And they were home runs last night. When we turned the ball over, it's like we didn't have a huge number. It was 14. It wasn't like it was, 18 to 20. But on a turnover last night, they were home runs because they had 21 points off turnovers. So the big keys going into the games were take care of the ball, rebound the ball, share the ball. And I don't think we shared the ball in the second half very well, and then we obviously didn't rebound the ball. And then for the game, like I say, they had 10 or 12 points off a second chance, and then they had 21 off turnovers. They really weren't scoring in the half court. They were beating us on hustle plays, and that's something that you can't have in this league. Is the tougher, more physical, the team that wins the hustle. It's so tight on what the talent level is on each team that who wins those categories wins the games a lot of times.
You've got Western Carolina coming into the Pete Hanna Center this Saturday. Talk a little bit about that matchup, and it's the second time you've seen them. When you see a team for the second time in the season, like ETSU last night, like Western this Saturday, what challenges does that present, seeing them for the second time?
Well, I think you learn something from the first time around, and then you also got to understand, though, that you got to put it away. It's a total different game. So obviously they're coming off a big win. They beat Chattanooga last night in Chattanooga. So they're going to come in with confidence because they just beat them, and they know they've been able to beat us before. So they'll come in with confidence. And what they are is, when they're going, they're a great offensive team. They had 105 points last night. But it's one of those things, I think you've got to make them be a challenge jump shot team. You can't give them second shots. And you can't give up that paint, because when you give up the paint, they're a really good three-point shooting team. When they're on, when they're at their best, they're making threes. And if you give up that paint, it sucks people in, and then that's when you start getting kickouts and an open three. So we got to limit their threes. We got to limit their second shots. And then on the other end, we got to get the ball inside. And when I say get the ball inside, the ball has to touch the paint literally every time down the court, whether it's through throwing it into the post on a post up, whether it's on our pick and roll, getting into the lane and getting people to converge and making plays, or if after we kick out and you get a closeout is driving it a second time, is the ball needs to touch the paint. This needs to be a game where we go use our size and athleticism and try to dominate the paint.
Coach, as always, appreciate your time.
All right, thanks a lot.
That's Samford men's basketball head coach Scott Padgett. Stay tuned. We've still got an interview with Myron Gordon coming up next.
Hi, I'm Sam Pritchard, and this is your Samford Sports Minute. The men's tennis team won a pair of matches last weekend, defeating Alabama State 5-2 and North Alabama 7-0. They host Lipscomb on Saturday and Nicholls State on Sunday. The women's tennis team also won handily last Saturday, defeating Kennesaw State 6-1. They return home on Sunday to face Nicholls State before hosting UT Martin on Thursday. The men's basketball team had a huge road win at Furman last weekend, but fell to ETSU on Thursday 74-66. They face off against Western Carolina in the Pete Hanna Center at 2 o'clock on Saturday before heading out of town to take on UNCG on Thursday. The women's basketball team had a tough week, falling to Chattanooga last Saturday and Furman on Thursday. They'll be back in action this Saturday at Wofford. The men's and women's track teams had the week off last week, but will be back in action this Sunday in the Jaguar Open right here in Birmingham. And finally, the softball and baseball seasons are right around the corner. The softball team begins playing next week in the Cowgirl Classic, taking on McNeese State on Thursday and Lipscomb on Friday. The baseball team starts its season February 15th against USF. I'm Sam Pritchard, and this has been your Samford Sports Minute.
Welcome back to the Samford Sports Wrap-Up. I'm joined now by junior guard Myron Gordon. Myron, appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's start about what brought you to Samford. You're from up north. You're from New Jersey. You played the last 2 years at Harcum College in the Philly area. What brought you down south? What made you say, hey, I want to be a Samford Bulldog?
During the recruitment process, they showed me like how it is to live down here, and then on my visit, it looked really nice on campus. That really reeled me in. And then one of the determining factors was they basically showed me the importance of family, and they showed me how important family is here, and that really reeled me in because I really love my family, and they're just really nice people down here. Coaching staff, everybody.
Yeah, how's your time been at Samford so far? Have you enjoyed it here?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Really nice weather.
I was going to say, what's your favorite thing about being in the South? But it's got to be the weather, right?
Yeah, it was really nice weather. And the people here are really nice to me. I really like the people.
Well, let's talk about the season you guys have had so far as a team. It's been a little bit up and down, but we've certainly seen the flashes of what you guys can accomplish. And I talked to Coach a little bit about this, just kind of trying to develop that consistency for 40 minutes. In your mind, how do you kind of go about developing that consistency?
It starts in practice, I feel like. We just got to be more consistent in practice. We have a lot of good days and sometimes we're just not focused. I feel like we got to start in practice, but I feel like we're coming along, and we got a lot of young guys that are starting to get the gist of the things, and a lot of guys that haven't played D1 or been out for a year or certain things like that. So I feel like we're really coming along together, and by SoCon tournament time, we should be straight.
Talk a little bit about your game as well. You've been a factor really since day one this season. You've started every game for Samford. Talk a little bit about what areas of your game you're happy with, and maybe what are some areas that you're really striving to improve on.
The adjustment from JUCO to here was kind of hard. The adjustment that I had to make was I was really like on the ball guy, and now we got a really good on the ball point guard, and now I'm at the 2. That was probably a big adjustment, but some things that I feel like I'm doing pretty well in is defensive, and I'm trying to talk more on defense and talk more on offense also. And some things I need to improve on is probably moving out without the ball and stop watching on offense.
We are kind of hitting that home stretch of basketball. Still a lot of games to be played. You've got 8 games left, but we are in February now, and the SoCon tournament's going to be here before you know it. As we get closer to that, it's kind of all about getting hot at the right time going into the tournament, and then it feels like, if you guys get hot, it's kind of anyone's tournament once you get to that point. Do you see it that way as well?
Yeah, I feel like that, and I feel like no team that we played has gotten our best game. Like, we've made minor mistakes or major mistakes in the long run throughout the game, and which affected us. So I feel like once tournament time comes, those teams are going to get our best punch, and we're really scared when they get our best.
Myron, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Good luck this Saturday at Western Carolina. That's junior guard Myron Gordon. Special thanks to both Myron and head coach Scott Padgett for joining me on this edition of the Samford Sports Wrap-Up, and we'll see you next week.